These are the new metal releases for April 24th, 2026. We're wrapping up the month of April, and honestly, the last few weekends have been pretty strong for releases. This one, I have 11 albums and EPs to cover, so there's plenty to get through. As always, these are going to be in no particular order. They're short reviews, and I give each one a score out of 10 at the end. So let's just jump right into it. Number 1, Sepultura, The Cloud of Unknowing. Kicking things off this week is Sepultura and the new EP, The Cloud of Unknowing, released through Nuclear Blast. Now this one comes with a little bit of context. This is only 4 tracks, notably features the only studio recordings from drummer Grayson Necrotted, and he replaced Elroy Casagrande back in 2024. And depending on how things go, might actually be the last thing we ever hear from the band. Sepultura are currently on what is being billed as their final world tour, and sounds like they're calling it quits when that's done. I'll be honest, I haven't followed Sepultura very closely since Max Cavalera left, but the band still has some key original members in place. Paolo Jr. on bass and Andreas Kisser on guitar, who's always been the backbone of the band's sound. Derek Green is on vocals, and he sounds very good. He's a really great vocalist. But let's talk about what's here. All Souls Rising opens the EP with a lot of speed and aggression, intense, in your face, right from the start. Beyond the Dream takes a different direction, slowing things down, getting more atmospheric with acoustic guitars and cleaner, more baritone-style vocals. Secret Books feels closer to the band's classic thrash metal identity, which was a welcome moment. And then the closer, The Place, probably my favorite track on the EP. It's slower, it's more atmospheric, but has some really strong guitar work that really stuck with me. Overall, it's not bad at all. My only real complaint is just very short. 4 tracks go by very fast, but what's here is solid. I'm giving it 7.5 out of 10. Next up is Toxikull, a Portuguese heavy metal and speed metal band out of Dying Victims production, their 4th studio album called Turbulence. The record has 10 tracks, runs about 38 minutes, and if you're a fan of classic 80s heavy metal, this band is going to scratch that itch in a big way. The sound here is very much rooted in a traditional heavy metal style, melodic guitars, big powerful vocals, kind of energy that made the 80s such a great era for this music. The vocalist has a lot of range, hitting some impressive high screams while also staying melodic throughout. Title track Turbulence is a highlight, featuring some really nice harmonized guitars and a big full sound. Dragon Magic stands out as well with galloping guitar rhythms and some clean guitar tones woven in that give the song a lot of texture. If you want a track that really captures that classic 80s traditional heavy metal feel, check out Blessed by the Night. Has that unmistakable guitar tone that defined the genre. And it shows some versatility on Dying Star, a heavy metal ballad with a more melodic vocal approach that works very well. This is a strong classic heavy metal album. If that's your world, don't sleep on this one. I'm giving it 8 out of 10. So I'm going to shift gears into something heavier. Necrotted is a German death metal and deathcore band. They've been around since 2008. And We Are the Gods That Tear Ourselves Apart is their 6th full-length album out on Reaper Entertainment. The record's only 30 minutes across 10 tracks, so it moves fast. Sound here leans more towards deathcore. The album opens with an atmospheric intro called Apotheosis before launching into Zeitenschlächter, which mixes death metal and black metal elements, blast beats, tremolo riffs, and those heavy chugging guitar rhythms all colliding at once. Origin of Human Sin stands out for its thick, prominent bass guitar work and some orchestral elements layered in, which gives it a really dense, full sound. There's also a collaboration track called Deus Ex, featuring Aborted and Coffin Feeder, which is a fun moment for bands of the deathcore scene. And Radiant Ransom is one of stronger individual tracks, intense and heavy, with some symphonic elements that really beef up the overall sound. Now, I'll be upfront, deathcore isn't really my thing, but I thought it was a pretty solid effort. And there's enough variety here to keep things interesting. So I'm giving this 7.5 out of 10. Next up is Powerrage with their debut album Beast, out through High Roller Records. This one has an interesting backstory because it's a brand new band formed by former Exciter members, guitarist John Ricci and vocalist Jacques Belanger. So there's some serious heavy metal pedigree here right out the gate, What's interesting is that it doesn't sound like Exciter. The band has carved their own identity. The vocals from Belanger have a really high range to them, and the production is very raw and has a dark quality throughout. The bass is prominent in the mix, and the tracks shift between fast, thrashy moments and heavier, doomier passages. Dark Wings open things up with the big vocals, a fast pace, and a genuinely dark atmosphere. Cremation Damnation slows things down considerably, reminding me of classic Merciful Fate. Vocals even venture into King Diamond territory at points. And that's a pretty wild and great choice. Dragon Man goes back to the raw classic thrash approach with some serious Motorhead energy. And Haunted Hell closes things out as a slow, atmospheric track with a very dark and demonic tone that lingers. This is a cool band. The vocal style is this unusual blend of death metal grit and high King Diamond style theatrics, and it works. The raw production suits the music perfectly. I'm giving this one 8 out of 10. Now, if you want something with a little more polish and some serious star power behind it, Elegant Weapons is back with their second album, Evolution. For those who don't know, it's a heavy metal supergroup featuring Judas Priest guitarist Richie Faulkner on guitar, Ronnie Romero on vocals, who has sung with Rainbow and MSG and many other bands, Dave Rimmer from Uriah Heep on bass, and Christopher Williams from Accept on drums. Production is once again handled by fellow Judas Priest member Andy Sneap, so the pedigree on this record is absolutely stacked. I listened to their album Horns for Halo back in 2022, and that one featured Rex Brown from Pantera and Scott Travis from Judas Priest. So this is a natural and confident step forward. It sounds exactly what you expect from these musicians. Classic, powerful heavy metal with strong guitar work and massive vocals. Ronnie Romero, you probably know him, but he's been compared to Ronnie James Dio before. And on this record, you can absolutely hear why. The opening track comes in with big guitar riffs, had me thinking of Jump in the Fire by Metallica, that same kind of driving, menacing energy. Generation Me is slower and bluesier, letting the vocals really breathe. Bridges Burn sounds like it was pulled straight out of the 80s, specifically Judas Priest Turbo, that's what it reminded me of. And I mean that as a compliment, by the way. And then there's a power ballad, Come Back to Me, which immediately brought Rainbow to mind. This album is very much in my wheelhouse, and for that reason, I'm bumping the score up a touch. I'm giving Evolution 8.5 out of 10. Next up is Atreyu, and I honestly haven't spent much time before sitting down with this record. I knew about them, I heard people talk about them, and I was aware some longtime fans were kind of frustrated with the direction of the more recent work, so I went in with an open mind and no real expectations, and I came out more impressed than I thought I would. So just a bit of background, Atreyu is a metalcore band and post-hardcore band, I guess you can call them, from California. They've been putting out albums since 2002, and the new album, The End Is Not the End, is their 10th record. And by all accounts, including what the band themselves have said, it's a deliberate return to heavier, more aggressive territory. The production from Matt Porling gives it a raw metalcore forward sound, and you feel the energy shift compared to what they've been doing in recent years. Dead was one of the standout tracks for me. Melodic guitar riffs with a feel that reminded me of classic Avenged Sevenfold. Break Me goes full aggressive hardcore mode and really delivers. There are a couple tracks that lean more pop-oriented, like All For You, which wasn't really for me, and Glass Eater has more of a new metal and industrial character that feels a little different from the rest. But the real surprise was Children of Light, a collaboration with Max Cavalera. And this is one of the thrashiest moments on the record. Overall, was a solid listen and genuinely pleasant surprise, giving it 8 out of 10. This next one is a real treat. Demon Spell are an Italian heavy metal band, and Blessed Be the Dark is their debut album, released on Dying Victims Productions. If you love King Diamond and Merciful Fate, stop what you're doing and check out this band. The album is soaked in a cult atmosphere and 80s heavy metal energy from start to finish. Vocalist Federico Fano is the centerpiece. He has this high-pitched theatrical style with falsettos, piercing screams, and a sharp, venomous delivery that channels King Diamond in a very convincing way. The production is clean and old school without sounding overly modern, which is exactly the right call for this type of music. The whole record has this dark, haunting, almost magical atmosphere that feels cohesive and intentional. As Lucifer Smiles opens with a genuinely creepy haunted house style intro before exploding into thunderous drums and blistering heavy metal riffs, Hexes and Horrors brings in a chilling piano intro before delivering more classic metal, and Curse of the Undead takes things into speed metal territory, which is a great change of pace that keeps the album from ever feeling stale. This is a cohesive, high-energy debut and nails the sound completely. If you're a fan of King Diamond and Merciful Fate, it's an easy recommendation. I'm giving this 8.5 out of 10. Next is Gus G with his fifth studio album, Steel Burner. If you're not familiar, Gus G is a Greek guitarist best known for his work with Firewind and most notably for playing on Ozzy Osbourne's album Scream. The man is one of the more technically accomplished guitarists in heavy metal, and the solo record is a great showcase for everything he can do. Steel Burner is a mixed record in the best sense. It features both instrumental tracks and songs with guest vocalists, and the variety keeps things moving nicely. The instrumental title track and Advent are standouts in that department, showcasing Gus's signature phrasing and his remarkable ability to craft melodies that are genuinely memorable despite the technical demands of the playing. On the vocal side, Nothing Can Break Me features Doro Pesh, and a powerful anthem with great chemistry between her raspy delivery and Gus's guitar work. Dancing with Death features Matt Barlow, has a dark, gripping feel, has some strong 90s Ice to Earth nostalgia for those who remember that era fondly. No One Has to Know features Dino Jeslik, and honestly might have been the best vocal performance on the album. Punchy, modern, hard rock, it hits immediately. And Ronnie Romero, who is making a second appearance, he also appeared on Elegant Weapons, and this guy kind of is all over the place, by the way. He's on My Premonition with an arena-ready delivery, and it leans into 80s rock and melodic power ballad territory perfectly. There's a lot of variety packed into this record. It exceeded my expectations. Final score, 8.5 out of 10. Next up is Witch Piss, which is a pretty cool band name, by the way, and their full-length debut album, The Devil Doesn't Burn, out on Ardua Music. This is a Belgian band that plays stoner metal, but with a darker, more aggressive edge that you might typically expect from the genre. Think Caius or early Baroness, but dirtier and more menacing. The production is raw and grimy in all the right ways. Vocalist Peter Edbergs brings a gravelly, sludgy delivery. It suits the music perfectly. Black Tongue Driven opens the album with a thick, sludgy sound, reminding me of that band Cathedral, slow, heavy, atmospheric. Wolf Cries Boy brings some ferocious energy with a slower, menacing midsection, gives us that real push and pull dynamic. Bakers and Horses comes in with a great fuzzy opening riff that immediately grabs you. Title track, The Devil Doesn't Burn, features guest vocals from Ben Bierce of Your Highness and has a bluesy edge. This really leans into that Caius sound. And Venus Rising injects some high energy into the back half of the record. And also worth mentioning that several tracks feature sound bites from old horror movies, which adds to the overall dark and unsettling atmosphere of the record. But in all honesty, stoner metal isn't really one of my go-to subgenres, but I recognize when something is done pretty well. I think this is a very good debut. It establishes their identity within that particular subgenre, but I will give this 7.5 out of 10. Next is Mission in Black, a German melodic death metal band, and their third studio album, Divinity of Lies, released through El Puerto Records. The album blends melodic death metal with some thrash influences, and the centerpiece is vocalist Steffi Stuber, who alternates between powerful growls and clean singing throughout the record. Her range and versatility immediately reminded me of Alyssa White Glues from Arch Enemy, and honestly, a lot of this album lands in that similar sonic territory with the more recent Arch Enemy records. If you're a fan of that style, this is going to be very familiar to you in the best way. The record was mixed and mastered by Sebastian Sieb Liverman. It sounds great. Rise's strong opening statement, classic melodic death metal with a catchy edge and powerful vocals that immediately set the tone. Something to Die For has these whirlwind guitar riffs driving it forward with clean vocals in the chorus that balance the aggression nicely. And the title track, Divinity of Lies, goes in a slightly different direction, slower and more gothic, with some church bells in the mix and a denser, more layered sound that I thought ended one of the more interesting moments on the record. It is a solid melodic death metal album. If that's your lane, it's worth your time, giving an 8 out of 10. I'm going to close things out with something completely different. John Corabi and his solo debut of original material, New Day. Now, we know John Corabi, best known for former vocalist of Motley Crue, and he's a name that's familiar to the rock and metal world. But I'm going to be honest with you all, this is not a metal album, not even close. What it actually sounds like is, it reminds, or to me at least, a Black Crowes type of album. It makes sense because Corabi has talked about wanting to channel that classic sound, so he's going for a sound that's like 60s and 70s, the Faces, Creedence, early Aerosmith, Rod Stewart, something like that. And he really nails it. Production from Marty Fredrickson gives the record a warm, live-in-the-room feel, and like you listen to the band playing together in the same space. And Corabi's voice, that signature raspy, expressive delivery, sounds as good as ever. The album is emotionally grounded, it's convincing, it's full of character. And the title track, New Day, it's an upbeat, feel-good driving song with a real message of growth and rebirth. 1969 is probably a standout track. It is a stadium-ready anthem. It has a strong Creedence Clearwater Revival energy, captures the spirit of that era beautifully. And Your Own Worst Enemy has this funky, Aerosmith-inspired groove and one of the heavier moments on the record. Laurel is a slow-burning showcase for Corabi's vocal grit, and the closer is a soulful cover of Sly and the Family Stone's Everyday People that ends the album on a genuinely joyful, optimistic note. It's not metal, but it's a really good rock record, and Corabi has really poured himself into it, and my final score, 8.5 out of 10. So that's all for the new metal releases for April 24, 2026. Check out this last week's episode, and thanks for watching. Please like this video. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe if you're not already. I do rock and metal reviews, rankings, and more. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.